Good morning and welcome to Living Local 15. I'm your host, Jessica Williams. Thank you so much for joining me today. Today I am at the Fort Wayne Museum of Art exploring their newest exhibit. Have you ever heard of the Ghost Army? Well, they are the combat con artists of World War II. They were our veterans who fought in a creative way, using deception, using art, and just different tools to fool the enemy. This is a program that was kept under wraps for so long, and we just really learned about their operation in 1996. This exhibit really explores that history and that journey, and I'm so thrilled to take you on this journey with me today. Are you ready? Let's get started. I am now joined by Brian Williamson, who is the technical director here at the Fort Wayne Museum of Art and the curator of the Ghost Army exhibit, and also Kathy Carrier, who is the founder and board member of the Bill Blass Legacy. Hello, how are you guys doing?
Great, Blass-tastic.
Yes. Well, this exhibit is just so interesting. I mean, it was so stunning walking into it, and I cannot wait for us to walk around and learn more, but let's start with the basics. Let's talk about the Ghost Army, Brian.
Okay, thank you, Jessica. I'm so glad that you're here today. The Ghost Army was a special organization put together to fool the Germans. They had inflatable tanks and artillery and trucks and even airplanes. And the idea was that they would move into an area, and they would generally move into an area at night, and the unit that was there would leave. They would set up their tanks and everything and make it look like that unit was still there. They would even have phony shoulder sleeve insignia, and so that if anybody saw them up close, it would say, oh, it's the same soldiers, they haven't moved. But the actual real unit had already deployed somewhere else and were getting ready to attack the Germans where they wouldn't have thought that that unit was.
Yeah.
So it was an entire deception, and it had elements of the visuals with the inflatables. It had radio elements where they had fake radio traffic to make the Germans believe that that unit was still there. They had sonic deceptions where they had played recordings of activity that soldiers would be doing, like building bridges or tanks moving down the roads or soldiers digging foxholes. They had all these recordings, and they blasted them with loudspeakers toward the German lines so that they would hear things and they could see things with the inflatables. And there was so many different avenues to deceive the Germans, and it was very successful.
It sounds so interesting. So me being someone who loves a good action film, you know, a grift, espionage and all that, I'm like, all this happened, you know, so it makes you want to dive deeper into the history that this actually happened in World War II. And I love how it says the combat con artist. So there's levels and layers to it.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, which is really exciting. And so I want to move into just the fact that it was so covert. Was this like the original, like probably covert type of operation?
Well, throughout history, militaries have always tried to keep their activities close to the vest so that the enemy wouldn't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
And they've used deception for millennia. The Trojan horse was an act of deception. But it was really well defined with this particular unit, with the different elements, with the sound and the recordings and the inflatables and things like that. And it's got basis, the British were doing similar things in North Africa, but the Americans refined it, and of course we do things better.
Right, exactly. Okay, so with this Ghost Army, I think one of the most fascinating things is the connection to Fort Wayne because of Bill Blass, which you are over that foundation, and just the fact that he is a fashion designer, but he served in this army. So can you start by just telling us about his journey?
I can. So Bill Blass was a Fort Wayne native. He grew up on South Calhoun Street. In fact, we put a sign in the yard of the house he grew up in, which is right across from Southside High School, where he went to school. So we're tied in there with some volunteer work just to let the kids and the teachers know that Bill Blass came from South Calhoun and Southside High School. In high school, his mother was a dressmaker. Father took his life through suicide when he was 5, grew up in adversity and became what he became. So during high school, he was sketching dresses. He had this dream of being a fashion designer. When he was in high school, in Southside High School, during the Depression, I mean, it was crazy. He actually found a dress manufacturer, Calmore, in New York, in high school to buy his sketches, his dress sketches, for 25 bucks a sketch, which was a lot of money back then. Okay, so he graduated from high school, went out to New York, began his fashion career, and then decided he was recruited out of the Parsons School of Design to be in the Ghost Army because he's a designer and a sketcher, and so he voluntarily joined World War II and went off to be in the Army. I didn't know this. I didn't even know Bill Blass originally was from Fort Wayne. I knew nothing about this. I had not heard of the Ghost Army. So when that got put together in our heads, that not only was he this entrepreneur and world-renowned fashion designer known all over the world, and he was in the Ghost Army in World War II, a hero, that was just too good of a story to pass up. I felt like the adults in Fort Wayne need to know that, the teachers in Fort Wayne need to know that, the veterans in Fort Wayne need to know that, the kids need to know that, because that's something to be proud of. So that's who he was, and that's why we're here today, because this exhibit tells the story of that amazing unit of men that fought in World War II, of which Bill Blass was probably one of the most famous. That's the Bill Blass story.
That is awesome.
Yes.
I want to dive into just walking through and just kind of learning more about the exhibit, which is so exciting, and then see how it kind of culminates as we experience the Ghost Army. Y'all ready?
Yes.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Okay, so this journey of the Ghost Army begins right here in 1944. And so, Brian, is this when the Army began? Is this when they went covert?
The seeds had been planted earlier in the war, and different people in Washington were talking with some of the British people, and Douglas Fairbanks Jr. actually was one of the ones that observed the British using inflatables in North Africa, brought that back to the States. And so the wheels started turning, and they knew that to do this kind of thing, they would have to stand up various units. One of them would be a camouflage engineer battalion. Well, the 603rd Camouflage Engineer Battalion was on the West Coast, and they were literally camouflaging factories so that they would be invisible from the air. They wouldn't look like factories anymore.
Yes, and as we begin the exhibit, Kathy, we have our Bill Blass to start us off. So kind of talk to me about some of the items that's in here.
So we have an archive that's electronic at the Allen County Public Library with photos and images from Bill Blass's life. It's electronic. The photo behind you is one of the ones that we tracked down of Bill during World War II leaning on a fence, and we like that photo. So Brian put together this outfit which aligns with the picture of Bill in World War II. This is the autobiography that he wrote before he died at age 79. It's co-written with Kathy Horan, which includes his fabulous meatloaf recipe, but that is the words of his life. And actually, it's been a good guidepost for us because I've never met Bill Blass. He died 20 years ago, 20-some years ago. So as we put together our work and as we put this together, in his words, this is the summary of his life. So it's been helpful to us to kind of give us the parameters of how he thought about his life.
So he is a fashion designer, a veteran, and he has a killer meatball recipe. I mean, and look at him without a shirt on. This man is an American man. He's a Fort Wayne man.
Yeah, an entrepreneur, a successful entrepreneur in World War II. Hometown hero.
Right. And so, Brian, what is something that's interesting and really stands out as you put this whole piece together?
One of the interesting things was this unit was so small. There, in the whole of the Ghost Army, there was only 1,100 men. And to have an exhibit of such a small unit that had such a large impact is just really incredible. And to have it come to the Museum of Art is a little bit different. because it's a little more military history, but it's got a very large art component, and it's got a great Fort Wayne connection.
Yeah.
Tell them about the guide on.
One of the interesting things that we were able to get for exclusively here at Fort Wayne is this guide on up here. The guide on is what a military unit would track on, and each company would have their own. Bill Blass was in the 603rd Camouflage Engineer Battalion, Company B, one of 77 men. And so this guide on is something that he would have stood under in formations and parades.
The actual guide on. He borrowed it from someone.
One of the veterans' families, their father was a lieutenant in B Company, in Bill Blass's company, and they loaned it to us for this display. It's exclusively here in Fort Wayne.
Yeah, and it's held up so well. And so you use that to create the towel that's in your hand. And what does that represent as people go around the museum and look at the different pieces?
So what we decided to do, because Bill knew so many of the people in this unit, that everybody that was in B Company, we put this little placard with it so that you would know he would have been a friend of Bill Blass in his company. One of 77.
That's awesome.
One other strange thing to mention, notice the little ascot that he has tucked in there. When interviews were done of people that were in the unit with Bill, they all said the same thing. He was always so put together. It's like he ironed his uniform, and sometimes he'd have like ascots, and he would look so put together. So he not only wore a military uniform, but he wore it like a fashion designer.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, so speaking of friends of Bill Blass, let's take a look at the other exhibit where you're able to actually collect some memorables from his friends.
Let's do that.
Okay.
Yes.
Welcome back. We are spending the day at the Fort Wayne Museum of Art as we explore their newest exhibit called Ghost Army, which really uncovers what they call the combat con artists of World War II. It has been so fascinating to hear this story, so we're going to continue to learn more. Let's do it. Okay, so Kathy, this here is such an interesting piece because of the friends of Bill. So explain to us the story behind this.
This little book is my favorite part of the whole exhibit. This is Bob Tompkins' journal. So they were told not to write home about their experiences in World War II. So he kept that tiny little journal. It had to be in his coat pocket so he could take it out and write in it. So his experiences are in that 50-some page journal of what happened while he was in the Ghost Army. He was Bill Blass's best friend. So he wasn't supposed to be doing this, but he did it. He brought it home, and it was Bill Blass's mother who transcribed the whole thing into a document.
Really?
Yeah, so cool.
That is, and it's so little.
It's so little.
'Cause I was like, wow, that's an address book. And I'm like, they were really writing addresses. So let's talk about just the secrecy of it, because I think that's so fascinating.
It is.
That it wasn't just from a few decades ago that the records of this Ghost Army was actually unsealed and shared, that these people served. They had to keep it a secret all that time. So when was it unsealed? And kind of tell me about just that, I guess, experience as families learned, like, oh my goodness, my grandpa, great-grandfather was in this Ghost Army.
And I think we all have those stories. So it was classified until 1996, which, if you think about it, is pretty recently.
Yeah.
And just a few months ago, for example, in Canada, there was a Ghost Army family member going through her attic, and she found this sketchbook of all of these people that her father had sketched. They were kind of like comic caricatures, and she found out her father was in the Ghost Army. It was John Hapgood's daughter. And actually, we have that sketchbook. We borrowed it for this exhibit. So I mean, it makes me wonder what we have in our attics that are replicas of, or artifacts of our father's Army or World War II or military experience that we don't know about.
Right.
So we keep uncovering new artifacts from the Ghost Army members, even as recently as several months ago.
Yeah.
So exciting.
So it's like go and look and search, because you never know where the roots are, and especially with you highlighting the fact that Bill Blass is from Fort Wayne, and that is just so cool.
It inspired me. I knew more about Bill Blass's World War II experience than my father's. My father would have been 105 today. So we're doing a summary of my dad's World War II experiences, my brothers and I. And I invite you and anyone to think about summarizing your father's or grandfather's military experiences, or mother's, to create an artifact for your family.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's keep going.
Let's keep going.
Okay, Brian, as we go through the exhibit and go on this journey that you curated, we're about 6 months into the Ghost Army's experience. And over here you have different items that include some operational items. So share with me more about this part of the exhibit in particular.
Well, of course, every military unit has to be able to communicate with everybody else. And one of the interesting things that we were able to do here is we have a radio that was made by Farnsworth Radio and Television. Farnsworth Radio and Television was headquartered here in Fort Wayne. This particular radio we have was made in the Marion plant. And of course, there's been a lot of defense contractors in the Fort Wayne area. And so we're very excited to have to display one that was made locally. And they were part of the Ghost Army to be able to use the communication equipment.
Wow, that is so cool. Just thinking about just the roots, how it ties back here locally, and how, like you said, items that were so vital and needed for that war experience was created here.
Yes.
And so I was talking with Kathy before just about that whole culmination of finding out about these veterans. And so I wanted to talk with you more about maybe what their experience could have been like during that time, because did their families know that they were deployed to actually be a part of the Army, or they had to keep everything a secret?
When they first went overseas, I'm sure the Army wasn't telling them that they needed to be confidential about what they were doing. But as the war went on, they realized that this might be something that might be needed in another wartime. And so they were told they were not supposed to talk about their actual missions.
Okay.
So a lot of the guys would kind of sideways reference what they did. I've heard several veterans said that, I didn't hear them personally, but say that they told people that they blew up tanks during the war.
Okay.
Which, if it's an inflatable, yeah, they blew it up. But when you say that, you think, okay, they blew it up with explosives. So it was kind of a little play on words that these guys kept. But it was a secret unit until the mid-90s.
Okay, so they were able to be honored as a veteran along the way, and while we're here, just saying thank you for your service.
Well, you're welcome.
Yes, that is just so important. Such a brave thing that these people did, and I love that you all are bringing it to life in this area. And so now let's go over and see how this all culminates to something really special.
Absolutely.
Okay. Okay, so we're at the conclusion of this whole exhibit, and by this time, the war is over. The troops were discharged, and now this is like September of 1945, so a complete year that the Ghost Army went on. And for that to be so long ago, it's so amazing to me that in the past year, they received this huge honor. So please tell me about this Congressional Medal of Honor. Oh my goodness, yay.
Yes, so Rick Beyer, who runs the Ghost Army Legacy, knew that when he researched the story, he knew the story was remarkable. Acts of heroism on the front line without weapons, fake weapons. So he and his board began to apply for the Congressional Gold Medal, which is really hard to get. I didn't know this, he taught me this. So each year they would lobby Congress to get it approved. Each year they'd get almost enough votes and then Congress would end. So then they'd start again the next year. This went on for about 7 years. Wow. And they finally received approval to get the Congressional Gold Medal for the Ghost Army's work in World War II.
Yeah.
So in March of last year, in 2024, 3 of our board members, Teresa Walker and Linda Wiss and I, went to Washington, not really knowing what to expect.
Yeah.
So there were 3 members of the Ghost Army who were there, still living in their late 90s. We met them, we talked to their families. All of the family members of the Ghost Army members, dead or alive, were there. We got to interact with all of them, heard stories about what they did in the Ghost Army. And this is the medal, that the Congressional Gold Medal that Bill Blass, our hometown hero, won as a result of his work in World War II. It is on display permanently in the Veterans National Memorial Shrine and Museum here in Fort Wayne on O'Day Road, and this is also the medal. So this is the program that we received when we were there in Washington, and this is what honors the work of the Ghost Army in World War II.
Yeah. It's so impactful.
So impactful.
Such a beautiful story of this Ghost Army, to learn about it, the way that it's been on display here at the Fort Wayne Museum of Art. I think it's a wonderful thing that you all brought this to life, because history is so important. You know, we know where we're going because we know where we came from. And, you know, there's so much strength in that.
Yeah. Well said. Perfect.
I love it. Well, thank you so much, Kathy.
Thank
you. It's been such a pleasure talking with you. What?
This was Blastastic.
I love it. Take care.
Yeah.
And if you would like more information about the Fort Wayne Museum of Art, we'll have their website listed below. This exhibit is taking place now through the end of October, so there's plenty of time to come out and experience this history for yourself. And remember, you can always catch up on episodes and segments of Living Local 15 by going to WANE.com, downloading the WANE app, and also checking us out on YouTube. And I'll leave you with this. It's never too late to live your best life, so start living it today, and I look forward to seeing you here tomorrow. Bye-bye.